Good evening. Welcome. This is the Planning Commission for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Bandel, Commissioner Bushoyer,
Here.
Commissioner Kenny,
Here.
Vice Chair Rizzo,
Here.
and Chair Chase.
Here. Please join me in the salute to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So at this point in every meeting, we open it up to public comment for that which is not on tonight's agenda. And I know everybody in this room is not here for that purpose. But we do open it up to other comments. If you have something to speak that we're not going to talk about tonight, you have 3 minutes to do so. I don't see anybody rushing up to the podium. Oh, there's a gentleman there. Hi.
Hello. Good evening, Commissioner. Good evening, council members. My name is Jermaine Dowdell. I'm a journeyman carpenter representing Local 35, which covers this county. I want to speak on the importance of labor standard wages, healthcare benefits, and how they affect the working class people, their families, and the community as well. As a union carpenter, I've been fortunate enough to afford a home for my family and a positive, healthy start. That's why I understand the importance of labor standard wages, because I too see the prices of everyday necessities becoming more and more expensive. Proper labor standard wages for workers help not only the cost of food, but also housing and healthcare. Having these standards can protect workers from exploitation and commuting far away from their families with lack of rest and possibly living check to check just to survive. When a person is making proper labor standard wages, it benefits the community as well, not only economically, but also they become an example to the young members of their environment to become productive, responsible members of society. To conclude, as a labor standard wage supporter, healthcare and opportunity and properly take care of families should be important to all of us. So I say, when building in this community, please pick responsible developers and responsible general contractors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak on something else tonight that's not on tonight's agenda?
That would be me.
Okay.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Chance Andes. I'm the warden of the San Quentin Rehabilitation Center. I'm joined by my colleague, Rhonda Litt, the Chief Executive Officer for Healthcare Services at San Quentin Rehabilitation Center. In March of 2023, Governor Newsom announced a change to the transformation of San Quentin State Prison, therefore transforming it into the Rehabilitation Center. We currently have above 1,600 employees, some of those of which are custody, medical staff. We're our own community. We have cooks, we have support staff, nurses, mental health. Our primary mission is to rehabilitate offenders back into the community so that they don't reoffend. And in order to do that, we want to make sure that our staff are provided all the needs they can to be successful. We face many of the similar circumstances as the individual here mentioned, where our staff is tired. They're driving back to places like Elk Grove, Sacramento, facing tolls and high expenses. We have an extremely high turnover rate. We're the highest of all the state prisons in California, so we face that struggle. We currently have a 32% employee rate that falls below the median income threshold for Marin County. Some of our custody staff are often offered a $200 stipend, which does not nearly cover the inflation occurrences that have happened. We would really like to be part of this qualifying pool for employee housing, and we hope for your consideration. Thank you
very much. All right. All right. Do you show anybody online with a hand up for anything, any other comment?
No hands raised online.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll close the public comment section before we get to our agenda item tonight. Tonight, we're going to construct a meeting more or less the following way. We'll name this presentation we're going to hear from. We'll have a staff report, and there'll be plenty of information to absorb in the staff report. The commission will then ask staff questions. There will be a presentation by the applicant, I believe, at which point then we will ask that applicant questions. After that, we will open it up to public comment. Depending on the number of commenters, we may have reduced the time limit to 2 minutes. Depends on how many people are standing up and how many people we have online. Tonight, we endeavor to get through the entirety of the item and get to consideration of the resolution at the end of the night. So after public comment, we will take it up here to the dais and discuss it and look at the resolution and the issues before us. So that's the lay of the land. I'm going to introduce the item tonight. This is a hearing for 240 Tamil Vista Boulevard, design review application PL 24-0059 for the demolition of an existing two-story office building and the construction of a six-story residential development with 99 multifamily units at 240 Tamil Vista Boulevard. So we have Senior Planner Martha, who will have a slide presentation, and off you go. So.
Thank you so much, Chair Chase. I'm going to kick off the presentation. My name's Amy Lyle. I serve as the Community Development Director. And so Martha and I will be both presenting the item tonight and doing an overview of the staff report. And then along with us, we have a deep bench of professionals that are here to answer questions as well. So we do have in the room Fire Chief Ruben Martin, and then our building official, Bernie Sapay. And then on Zoom, we have our Public Works Director, RJ Suko. And then we also have our CEQA consultants, Terry Whistler Adams and Shoshana Lutz. That should be on Zoom to help as well. And next slide, please. So I'll just start by saying this project has been controversial from the beginning. We've had a lot of concerns raised by the community, and it's our objective to really address as much as we possibly can through the staff report, the FAQs, and the meeting tonight. A lot of the concerns raised include traffic, concerns around water consumption, concentration of housing sites along the Tamil Vista corridor, the height and scale of the building, the need for more bicycle parking, EV chargers, the importance of all electric building, and then also evacuation issues. And this application is taking advantage of a few state laws that limit the town's discretion and our ability to really address those items in the same way that we could address them for other projects. And so I'm going to walk through some of these state laws because they don't all only limit discretion, but they also streamline the process. So this, I'm sure, to the community has felt very fast, but there is reason behind those things. So primarily, this project is working with SB 330, which was adopted in 2019, effect in 2020, and it applies to residential developments and mixed-use projects. And it's really, it was designed to address the housing crisis in California. By streamlining the approval process, it locks in fees for the applicant, and it also creates a certain number of meeting times that can happen. So it really creates certainty for the development community. So to eliminate delays, the law limits the number of public meetings to 5. And so that's why, for that reason, we're really asking that your commission get to a conclusion tonight. And so this is one of the meetings, and we are holding an additional slot for a meeting related to the grading permit, which is required to be going to the town council. So this is the first SB 330 project that Corte Madera has had. And but this is a very common practice in a lot of jurisdictions. And so it is a little, I will say, jarring to the community to see something go so fast and without the discretion that we're used to. And I know for the commission, this has put you in an interesting spot as well, because you are used to having a lot of discretion over projects in the development community. Next slide, please. The other state law that this project is taking advantage of is our state density bonus law. And this provides developers with incentives to encourage development of affordable and senior housing. So if a developer meets the requirements under state law, they're entitled to receive density bonus and other benefits as a matter of right. So it's nothing that we can negotiate or take away from the applicant. This means the town has no discretion over these components of the project. And it really creates a huge reliance on the policy structure that we have in place. So objective design standards, the housing element that was adopted and all the policies, site inventory. So it's really, state law is requiring a shift from the individual projects to the policies. And so I think that's just an important point. We're going to talk about the housing element a little bit later. So this particular project qualifies for an 80% increase in density because of the level of affordability. And the density bonus law also includes additional tools, so incentives, concessions, waivers that are intended to help make development more affordable and more economically feasible. So I will note that because we have limited discretion, there's a lot of protections under state law. So the town has, again, little discretion, and the failure of the town to approve this project could be considered improper disapproval under the Housing Accountability Act. So we also have some liability as well because this project is taking advantage of these state laws. Next slide, please. So we just wanted to note which specific standard waivers or which waivers are being requested as part of this project. Under state density bonus law, there's no limit on the number of waivers, and all of those would have to be granted. An applicant may also request a reduction of development standards that would have an effect physically precluding construction on the project and the permitted density. So there's no limit to the number of waivers. And in this situation, there are 6 development waivers that were requested. And there's also a concession requested for the reduction in the EV parking. Next slide, please. So really shifting to the housing element and the adopted policy that we have here in Corte Madera. Some people may be familiar with our RHNA, which is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation. This is the number of housing units the state has told us in Corte Madera that we have to plan for. And this is really the basis for a lot of the housing element work that occurred a couple years ago. And so one of the most significant components is that we have identified specific locations for housing developments and ensured that those sites are zoned at sufficient densities to accomplish these numbers. It's divided into different income levels, and this table shows what we're required to produce, and then also the project totals for this project and how it would contribute to our RHNA totals. And I will say the town on a normal basis approves about 10 to 20 units per year, which if we continue on that route, we will be nowhere close to that 725 units that's required by 2031. And if the town doesn't produce the housing units in accordance with these RHNA numbers, there's an additional state law that would be triggered, and that's SB 35. We have not had to grapple with SB 35 here in Corte Madera, but what it does is it creates a ministerial process for housing. So a project like the one you're reviewing tonight could come in under a ministerial process, and that would mean we would have to be approving it administratively, no public hearing, no public noticing. And this is the norm for a lot of cities in California that have not met their RHNA. So this is one of many reasons why it's important for us to really take into consideration this project along with the state laws and the need to be able to approve the project. Next slide, please. So the other component of the housing element that we wanted to highlight is the location of the housing sites. This has come up a number of times in the meetings so far on this project. And we've heard that the location can be problematic and that we should consider other locations. And these sites were analyzed as part of the housing element through quite a lot of outreach over a long period of time. And these were found to be the most suitable locations, primarily because they're along the 101 corridor, outside the wildland urban interface, and they are relatively flat sites with development potential, redevelopment potential, or property owners that were willing and interested in building housing. So of the 10 sites identified, this site was one of them. And the location of this project is really an expression of the adopted policy within the housing element. The project is implementing what was adopted and is taking advantage of laws in multiple ways to really streamline the approval process and make the project feasible to build. Next slide, please. So the other thing we wanted to highlight is as far as what types of units this project would be producing. There are a lot of questions about, well, who gets to live here if they were to be built, and what would those rents be? The rent that can be charged is determined by federal and state agencies, and it's strictly regulated. And these are 2024 numbers that are really showing for a 3-bedroom unit, it would be just over $1,500. For a 30% income level, it'd be $3,500, and for $3,500 for a 70% income level. Next slide, please. So this slide shows the income that households would earn in a year to qualify for the various income levels for the project, from 30 to 70%. So for instance, a family of 4 can make $137,000 and qualify for a low income unit. And I will note that in Marin County, we have the highest potential rents and AMI that can be charged in California. So these are reflective of the area and the region and the maximum income and the maximum rents that could be charged. So one thing the housing element tries and strives for is to create a mix of housing opportunities for, among other things, young adults moving in, workers, healthcare workers, essential workers, to find homes near jobs. There was a recent study by the county called Rooted in Marin, which will be presented to the council next month. And it found that of the population decline in Marin County, a large sector of that decline were people making below 75,000. And so those are our workforce. Those are the young families. And it is creating instability in our economic vitality and declining in school enrollment. So there is a huge impact to the decline and people moving out of Marin because we do not have adequate housing within the area. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Martha to talk about the project and the various components of the staff report.
Good evening, Commission and members of the public. This next half of the presentation is an overview of the proposed development. The proposed project at 240 Tamil Vista Boulevard is approximately 226,000 square feet. It includes 99 multifamily units, which would be 100% affordable to lower income families. The 6-story building is 72 feet tall and includes 163 parking spaces. On the ground floor, there is a parking garage, 2 lobbies, amenity space, including a fitness center, a teen room, and a tech room, some bike storage, and some additional ancillary space. The second floor includes a garage and 4 units that are on the east elevation facing Tamil Vista Boulevard. The third floor includes 23 units and then the landscape podium that provides outdoor space for the tenants. And floors 4, 5, and 6 all include 24 units. The majority of units, 86, are 3-bedroom units, and then there are 13 4-bedroom units. The size of the units range from 1,080 square feet to just over 1,300 square feet. This slide shows the development standards for the site and the applicant's proposal. These standards were adopted in January 2023 as part of the rezoning effort that was done as part of the housing element. The density for the site is 35 units, which results in a base density of 55 units. And as Amy mentioned, the developer is taking advantage of state density bonus law. And since it is a 100% affordable project, they are entitled to an 80% density, which is 44 additional units, resulting in a total of 99 units. The height for this site is 50 feet. And the applicant is requesting a development standard waiver from this height limit and is proposing 72 feet. This district also includes a step back requirement in which floors above the third floor are required to be stepped back 10 feet. And this applies to elevations that face street frontages. And the applicant has also requested a waiver from this standard as well. The building complies with the different setback requirements. However, a waiver was requested to allow for the stairs and ramps to encroach more than 3 feet into these setbacks. This slide shows the vicinity map. The project site is located at the southwest corner of Tamil Vista Boulevard and Pfeiffer Avenue. The site is 1.57 acres and it is developed with a 2-story office building that is vacant. The existing office building is just over 25,000 square feet, and there is a surface parking lot with 75 spaces. The site is in the floodplain, which requires that the building be elevated a minimum of 1 foot above base flood elevation. The applicant is proposing to elevate the building an additional 2 feet in anticipation of sea level rise. Located northeast of the project site is an office and a gym. Located to the east across Tamil Vista Boulevard is Joanne Fabric. To the south is Marin Waters Corporation Yard. And to the west is Corte Madera's Corporation Yard. And then located to the north and northwest across Lucky Drive are residential uses, both within the town of Corte Madera and also the city of Larkspur. Access to the site is proposed by a single driveway on Tamil Vista Boulevard. The proposed driveway is located approximately 40 feet south of the existing driveway on Tamil Vista Boulevard. This area also includes an emergency vehicle access for fire trucks, and there is a turnaround in this area for both fire trucks and trash trucks as well. The areas shown in pink on this slide are the amenity spaces on the first floor, and the areas shown in purple are the leasing office and the lobbies. The project also provides 2 pedestrian entry points. The main entry is on the southeastern portion of the building, and then the secondary entry is at the corner of Tamil Vista and Pfeiffer. A state density bonus law also includes parking requirements that are slightly different than the parking standards in the town zoning ordinance. This slide shows the required parking space per state density bonus law, and it's based on the bedroom counts. Again, the project proposes 86 3-bedroom units and 13 4-bedroom units, which results in a parking requirement of 162 spaces, and the applicant is providing 163 spaces. As the project is further refined, the applicant will continue to explore if there's an ability to provide additional parking for guests. There have been several comments and concerns raised about the bicycle parking spaces being provided. The requirement is 1 bicycle parking space per unit, which is 99 spaces, and the proposed project provides 37 spaces. The applicant has requested a waiver from this standard, and the applicant has stated that the design team will continue to explore opportunities to provide additional secure bike parking space. These areas on this map highlighted in red are support areas, and it is possible that one of these areas could be converted to bike parking. However, at the time, it's just unknown if these areas will be needed for mechanical and electrical equipment. The applicant did meet with bike advocates, which included a member of the town's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, someone from the Bicycle Coalition, and also a member of VTB TAM to discuss other things that could be done to improve bicycle parking at this site. The applicant is exploring adding a stacker system to the existing bike storage area, which would allow for increased bicycle parking. And they're also looking at participating in a regional bike share program and providing bikes owned by the property that tenants could use. The project will remove all 42 trees on the site. This slide shows the existing species of trees on the site and the quantity of each. The code requires that for every tree that's removed that has a circumference of 30 inches or more, that it be replaced with two 24-inch box trees. Of the 42 trees proposed to be removed, 21 have a circumference of 30 inches or more. So the replacement planting is 42 trees. The project proposes to plant 101 trees, which includes 88 trees on the project site and an additional 13 trees off-site on the sidewalks. And the majority of trees proposed are 24-inch box or larger. Consistent with the zoning requirements for the site, the project includes 10-foot wide sidewalks adjacent to all the street frontages, which include Tamil Vista, Pfeiffer Avenue, and Lucky Drive. The applicant will also be planting street trees 30 feet on center along these frontages. And on Tamil Vista Boulevard, Swan Hill olive trees are proposed, a total of 6, which have a size of 36-inch box. And along Pfeiffer Avenue and Lucky Drive, a total of 7 cork oak trees are proposed, also a size of 36-inch box. The project is required to provide 150 square feet of usable open space, recreational space. The requirement for the project is 14,850 square feet, and the total provided is 15,685 square feet. And this includes the amenity space on the first floor, including the teen room, the tech room, and the gym, and then also the amenity space and the landscape podium on the third floor. The landscape podium includes a game lounge area, a garden area, a multi-purpose lounge with barbecue facilities, and a lawn area with a tot lot. A planning staff hosted a community meeting on January 22nd. The meeting was well attended. Approximately 75 people attended, which was split pretty evenly between people participating in person and via Zoom. 22 people provided public comments. The majority of commenters expressed concerns with the project related to traffic, water, the number of sites on Tamil Vista, the scale and the size of the building, the need for more bike parking and EV parking, and the importance of having an all-electric building. Several people did speak in support of the project and stated the importance of providing workforce housing in the community. Now, the Planning Commission held a study session on January 28th. 9 people provided public comments at that meeting. Most speakers raised concerns with the project, and the issues that were cited were very similar to what was cited at the study session. One speaker did voice support for the project, emphasizing the community's need for more housing. And another commenter acknowledged that the town had made recent traffic improvements in this area, and that the nearby Tam Ridge project did not result in as much traffic as was anticipated before it was constructed. This slide shows some of the Planning Commission feedback and concerns that were stated at that meeting. The applicant has prepared 3 alternative designs. These were included as an attachment to your staff report, and the architect will be providing information on these alternative options as part of their presentation. The California Environmental Quality Act, known as CEQA, requires that certain projects be reviewed for environmental impacts and that environmental documents be prepared to analyze the impacts. The town consulted with EMC Planning Group to provide a comprehensive environmental analysis of the current project. And we also worked with EMC Planning Group on the subsequent EIR that was prepared as part of the housing element update. The town prepared an initial study to evaluate any new impacts that were caused by the changes to the project compared to what had been evaluated in the 2023 SEIR. And the housing element SEIR, which was certified in January of 2023, assumed 58 units and approximately 14,500 square feet of commercial, whereas the current proposal is for 99 units and 0 square feet of commercial. The Planning Division has determined that an additional subsequent EIR is not required for the project, and an addendum was prepared. The addendum is included as Exhibit A to Attachment 1, and a mitigation and monitoring reporting program was also prepared as required by CEQA, and that is included as Exhibit B to Attachment 1. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission, after reviewing all information, presentations, and public testimony, adopt the draft resolution number 25004, which is included as Attachment 1, approving the project and including making a finding that a subsequent EIR is not required. That concludes the staff presentation. Amy and I are available for questions. And as stated, there are members from the Fire Department, Public Works, and Building Team also here to answer questions.
Thank you very much. At this point, we can ask you guys questions from the commissioners. It doesn't sound like there's any other presentation you want to undertake from any of the consultants at this time. Okay, great. All right, so let's start over to my right with Daniel and see what questions he has for staff at this point.
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions for staff until I hear from the proponent.
Okay, all right. Valerie.
All right, I have a few just small clarification questions. So for the trip generation report in the table 5 on page 18, from my understanding, the comparison is of the currently vacant building, correct? And the trips are to that building is at 0, but the baseline that was using to compare the trips was for the historic office building. So it is a bit dated. So were there any additional studies to understand the noise and air implications of adding 509 trips into that corner? And does it justify the timeline for this project?
So the hexagon report looked at both estimated trip generation from the proposed project and compared it to trip generation of the office building if it still were operating. So those estimates are from the trip generation manual, which is used by traffic engineers to estimate trips. So the proposed project would result in just over 500 daily trips. And then the office building, if it were still in operation based on the size of the office building, was estimated to result in approximately 350 trips. And then the AM and the PM peaks for both the proposed residential and the office, if it were operating, are approximately the same. If you have additional questions about that, RJ could chime in as well.
Perfect, thank you. All right, and another question is in regards to the removal of the trees that are 30 inches in diameter, larger than 30 inches. So we've seen the bat report mitigation, but is there a nesting bird mitigation that is included into that as well?
Yes, they will be required to do, biologists will be required to go on site both, I think, a couple of weeks before and then right before construction to ensure that there are no roosting bats and also that there are no migratory birds. So those are all included in the MMRP.
Got it. All right, thank you. And also in regards to the grading and earthwork that will be required, was there a hydraulic model that was run to demonstrate that there's no offsite increase in flood and depth velocity for that? And if not, will a FEMA conditional letter will be required to show the new levels?
Was not a hydraulic model that has been done at this point. The project is required to comply with NPDES requirements, which for projects that displace more than 5,000 square feet also have low impact development requirements that require them to treat stormwater on site through the use of bioretention. And I see RJ's popped on, so I'll let him take over.
All right, thanks.
Yes, so given this parcel is in the FEMA floodplain, as part of their submittal, their overall building permit plan and grading plan, they'll have to show that they are not altering the floodplain in any way. So that will get reviewed by Public Works, and we will follow the FEMA guidelines for that.
I see. So you do not foresee the level increase to cause the disturbance to the neighboring streets by creating more water accumulation on those areas?
They have not submitted a final grading permit, but I think, it's certainly possible to engineer it such that there is no impact in that way. And that'll be part of our review as we go forward.
All right, thank you. All right, and one additional question is for the post-construction operational noise for the project. There was no evaluation for that. Will there one be done? Because we just want to make sure that the project will not exceed the 55 decibels in noise that would disturb the neighboring residencies around. And I'm talking about the HVAC units that are on the rooftops and all of the other stuff that go into the operation of such a large building.
At this point, they're still fine tuning the HVAC equipment. All projects are required to comply with a noise ordinance. And new equipment tends to be much quieter. And the equipment is on the roof, so it's not close to property lines. But they will be required to meet the noise requirements. And during the building permit submittal, we'll have additional information on the type of equipment proposed as well.
Right, thank you. I think that's all for
All right.
staff.
Thank you, Valerie. Hi, Margaret. Do you have some questions for staff?
Yeah. Amy, when you talked initially, you said that the issues that we are facing here with this project are common in many other jurisdictions. And many other jurisdictions have taken advantage in planning their housing element of the new laws that have come to be. What size, do you have any idea what size those jurisdictions are?
I think what I was referring to is that the new laws related to streamlining and allowing additional density for affordability have really taken hold. So a lot of jurisdictions have had to grapple with these issues. They're definitely more common in larger jurisdictions, but it is also common for smaller jurisdictions. So it really levels the playing field. So there's opportunity and certainty regardless of where you are. And so my point was really for Corte Madera, this is the first, but these laws have been in place since SB 330 since 2020. And so there has been a greater familiarity with other jurisdictions that we've been watching from afar and really seeing a lot of jurisdictions grapple with this, which is putting our commissions and councils in a very awkward spot to approve something with very little discretion because state law is basically forcing you to. So that was really the just the situation that I wanted to portray for you.
And are you aware of any other similar situations to ours in Marin County?
Let's see, I know Mill Valley had an SB 330 project recently.
And how
Um,
many stories is that project?
I don't have all the specifics on all the other projects. I'm sorry.
I do know there are a couple very tall buildings in San Rafael that they're either under review or they've been entitled, but they're upwards of like 13, 14 stories. So, or even taller.
Was there anybody that you consulted or talked to from the education community? What would the impact be on local schools if families with many children moved in?
That was evaluated as part of the initial study. And it's based on the average household size to determine students. But it's my understanding that there's actually that they're operating, they don't have full capacity at any of the schools, at the middle schools or the high schools, and that they have additional capacity for more students.
And how, do you know how many more students? And this is a project where families are going to be, some of the families probably have 3 children. Most, for the size of the units, probably have 2. So if there are 99 units, that's 200 or 300 children.
Perhaps our environmental consultant can reply to that. We did reach out to the superintendent's office also to make them aware of the project. We have Shoshana on.
There she is.
Hi,
Hi.
everyone. Hi, can you see me? You can see me okay?
Yes, we do.
Oh, great. Hi, so I am Shoshana Lutz. I'm with EMC Planning Group. I'm a senior planner. I prepared the initial study alongside Terry Whistler Adam. She's a senior principal with EMC Planning Group, who's also on. I believe Martha might be working on that to get her to be promoted to panelist, but she's on as well for questions. So to answer, Commissioner, your question about excess capacity. So in the initial study, table 10, we have the excess capacity for, I don't know if you want the specific schools, which we do have in the table, but just, I guess, for this conversation, for the school districts, the Larkspur, Corte Madera School District. Oh gosh, I can't do math fast, but for the 3 schools, there's a 500 excess capacity, 775, and a 700 in terms of students and excess capacity. And then for the Tummel, for the high school district, there is about 3,200 excess capacity. What? So there's a lot of excess capacity.
A lot. Is there a number to a lot?
I should have said 3,200, I believe.
Yeah. So for I apologize that I'm saying a bunch of numbers. I don't have the total for all of these, but I mean, I could provide that if you gave me a moment. But for the high school district, it's 3,243 is the excess capacity. And then again, for Larkspur, Corte Madera School District, so to go into more detail, the Cove School, 500 is the capacity excess. Neil Cummins Elementary is 775, and Hall Middle is 700.
So I guess I didn't, let me understand. You're saying that in the Tamalpais, in Redwood High School, which is right next door to that, they could take 3,000 more students and not be overrun. No?
Yeah. So from conversations with the school district and for state data online, and based on enrollment numbers and what kind of capacity they have, these are the numbers in which until they are considered at capacity. So they are able to take in. So for example, Redwood High School is able to take in 3,243 additional students before they're considered at capacity.
Okay. Thank you. Please go ahead, Margaret. Yeah.
Well, I can't believe that that's right. No. Anyway, since we have our legal eagle here, could you tell me what the liability, if Corte Madera did not pass this as recommended, what would the liability of the town be?
The statute doesn't create a special type of liability for this particular type of project, assuming that we're talking about whether or not we approve it within the meeting. There would be a lawsuit. The lawsuit, or there could be a lawsuit based on failure to comply with the Housing Accountability Act and the density bonus laws. The court could order us to approve the project. Alternatively, HCD could file a lawsuit. The Attorney General could file a lawsuit. In any of those cases, if the town were unsuccessful, we would be responsible for attorney's fees, which can be considerable, as you know.
And has that happened in any other county in California?
Mm-hmm. There have been some violations found in other counties, but I can't really give you the specifics off the top of my head.
Okay, so Amy again, when you mentioned a number of times, and I appreciated it, that the town's discretion or the commission's discretion is very limited. It's actually no discretion. Is that correct?
You could interpret it that way. I think in this case, the applicant has been able to give you some options as far as design. They've really been working with us to walk through any potential options there are and alleviate the concerns from the community and then the concerns that you all raised at the last meeting. So there are the design options to grapple with tonight. So that gives you some discretion over that component of the project.
And so that's pretty much what we're facing here.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Margaret. All right. Jim.
I did, to clarify the school thing, I think that the consultant said the entire school district, not the high school, but maybe she can come on and clarify that. The 3,200 students, I believe that was the entire school district. Not
That's
the
my
high school.
understanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not just Redwood, but the entire school
The
district.
the Tamalpais district, that
Okay.
includes Redwood.
Correct. Okay.
The Tamalpais district's in Mill Valley.
It's the whole district. Okay, I've got some specific questions about there was a lot of concern about the size of the project, and I'm wondering, and this happened on all three meetings that I attended. Actually, I've attended all of them. And did the applicants ever come back with a design that tried to trim down the bulk and scale of this project?
Height has remained the same at 72
Mhm.
feet. The applicant has prepared some alternative options that they're going to present. And those options make changes to materiality and colors and create some additional horizontal changes to the building as a way to modify the perceived height. But the overall height has not changed. It is still a 6-story, 72-foot tall building.
And the program hasn't changed, even though the community had kind of requested a diverse, different apartment sizes.
The unit mix has not shifted. It continues to be all 3 and 4 bedroom units. The majority of units are 3 bedrooms with a handful of 4 bedroom units. So that is
No, what I mean is they never even tried to come back with a different proposal. It's just the same proposal with different finishes, same footprint, same design.
Correct.
Okay. And in situations like this, do towns ever do an independent study on the economical feasibility of a project to contain it to what our adopted objective standards are?
No, and I will say, and I think Ann would want to weigh in on this, that we really have no purview over whether a project is economically feasible. In most cases, the applicants are doing their own feasibility to make sure that it's something that can be built. And I will say, just from perspective of the town, and just from local government, it's usually challenging to get projects to build 3 and 4 bedroom units at this level of affordability. Usually affordable projects will just have 1 and 2 bedrooms. And sometimes there's policies or objective standards that do state the type of units and the type of mix that are required, but those can be a barrier. And so usually affordable housing developers will ask for a waiver from those standards. So it's exceedingly rare to find a project that's actually going to produce 3 and 4 bedroom units. Andy, do you want to weigh in?
I just wanted to mention that the requirements that are imposed on us by the state laws, they refer to the project as proposed by the applicant. They don't require the applicant to establish that this is the only feasible project, because many projects might be feasible. All he has to do is establish that the density bonus, that the concessions he's requested and incentives that he's requested will lower the cost of the project that he or she has proposed, and that the waivers are necessary to physically build the project that applicant has proposed. So unfortunately, feasibility doesn't really come into it for the questions that are before you tonight.
Isn't it more expensive to build a three bedroom and a 4 bedroom than a 1 bedroom?
I don't know that that's the case.
Say, but it doesn't really matter for
Okay.
purposes of applying the law.
All right. And this one's for RJ or Ruben. It looks like flooding is in Ruben's court these days, in the general plan anyway. But I was just curious because we came up with the plan and we rezoned the whole corridor. Is there a plan eventually to do something with the streets or some kind of flood mitigation for the additional units that are going to come on the market? Because this is probably one of 4 or 5 projects in the next 5 or 10 years.
So when it comes into flood mitigation, typically we would leave that to Public Works. And when it comes into the FEMA side of it, we usually deal on the fire side of it.
Yeah.
When it comes to flooding, we're more on the mitigation side after the fact
Okay.
and trying to mitigate the emergency.
All right, well, RJ's on screen.
Yeah. But I have another one for Ruben. If he
I'll
can
stay
step
on
on
it
it.
Go ahead.
No, first for RJ. Sorry, I was just.
Yeah, so they'll have to show that they're managing stormwater, any other surface runoff.
My question wasn't about like this project. It was more about the next few. Like, we're going to have a lot of people living in this area, or have we talked about maybe putting it on the general plan to do any mitigation for that street in general? Pfeiffer, and I mean, that whole area gets water in it. I mean, are we going to raise that at some point?
Yeah, so we have as part of our climate adaptation assessment, have looked at just our current flooding issues related to tidal conditions. And so, yes, there are several, upwards of a couple days a year where, Lucky Drive does flood near our town courtyard. We do have a pretty good sense of where it's coming from. We actually have some meetings with some private properties that potentially could offer some solutions. So it's certainly on our radar and something that we'll be pursuing over, the next decade until it's done. And then otherwise, most of our other areas that address flooding for the town are kind of on the outer limits, along the bay and whatnot. And those will be the protection areas that really will keep this whole corridor dry, so to speak.
Great.
Yeah.
The next two are for Ruben. I understand, Bernie may have to speak on this. I understand this construction type, we're limited to about 72 feet for for fighting this type of, for the ladder to reach, I believe, that particular upper floor. Will the retaining walls that are pretty significant be an issue with the ladder? Because some of the retaining walls are over 6 feet tall.
No, there wouldn't be. So right now, when we look at ladder access, we currently have 4 ladder trucks within the county.
Mhm.
So one within each op area with the exception of West Marin. So the closest ladder truck that we have to us is fortunate is within our battalion, which is within our group of coexistent stations that we operate almost like a single organization. That one, it comes out of Kentfield Fire. And then the other 2 that are under an automatic and mutual aid agreements with us are either Southern Marin Fire Department or San Rafael. And both of their ladders are 107 feet. So the 107 footers will get us to the roof. The one coming out of Kentfield will not. So what we would have to do is then pre-plan this site with our dispatch center to send the appropriate resource.
And do you see any of these flooding issues during these high tides being an issue for egress for the community?
No, not on high tides. Because we typically, the only real place you see some flooding is in the Lucky Drive extension, which is kind of right below the 101 on-ramp. You'll see kind of where the dip is in 101 where it floods. Typically, that's your flooded area, more towards the northern end of Pfeiffer, kind of in that area. So right where this location is, I really haven't seen that much flooding there. So I wouldn't anticipate an evacuation or a travel component that would hinder the occupants of the building.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, okay, thank you. A question for staff. I know somebody on staff knows this. What is the height of town center roughly? It's
60 feet.
60 feet. I knew you'd know that, right? Okay. So this is 72 comparatively. That's where we stand with this. The income level rent chart was a little confusing, but I'm not sure it matters really at the end of the day. You have a rent from 50,000 to 100, or income from 50 some thousand to 148,000, and the rents range from 1,500 to 3,500. So the project assumes that 10% of the units are renting at 30%. Is that how it works out here?
Currently assumes that 10% will be at 30%, 10% will be at 50%, and then there'll be 40% at the 60
Right.
and the 70. And in order to qualify for these tax credits, the average needs to stay below 60%.
I see. So they have to follow those income guidelines when renting. And
Yes,
that's part of the deed restriction that goes till for 50 years,
55.
55, right? Okay. I heard you say that the 4-bedroom is 1,300 square feet. Is that right?
It's 1330.
1,330. Okay. All right. I hear that there's a traffic study that was engaged by the town for this area, and you touched on it with vehicle miles traveled. And does that traffic study project any further solutions in the area down the road?
Sure. There wasn't a formal traffic study because the project does screen out of VMT, the vehicle miles traveled threshold for CEQA. So what we did in response to community and commission input is we have Hexagon, who is part of our environmental team doing the initial study. They looked at the safety components of the project. And then in addition to that, the town hired a separate consultant to really look at the existing conditions around this project to see if there's anything from the town side that we could do to alleviate existing conditions So with both of those projects, there's Hexagon does have some recommendations which have been incorporated into the project and discussed with the applicant team. And then the report that the town prepared did have some suggestions that are more bike and pedestrian related because there are some projects that will be happening on Lucky Drive where this project could connect with. So we will be reviewing those in the future as we're able to when those projects come online.
Okay, thank you. I think we should move into applicant presentation at this point. So who do we have here tonight to stand up for the project? Hi.
Good evening, commissioners, and thanks for the opportunity to present our project with you again. My name is Keith Labus with, is this not on?
No, it's on.
I'll get a little closer.
Yeah, you'd have to get your voice close to the microphone. Yeah.
Maybe I'll do that. Is that better?
Great.
Okay, great. My name is Keith Labus, principal with KTGY Architecture and Planning, and I'm also joined tonight via Zoom by Megan Palmer, who will be assisting me in answering any questions. Also joined by Zoom by Mark Schattinger with MJS Landscape Architects. Together, Mark and I will be walking you through the design of the project. Also joining by Zoom is our civil engineer, Ryan Hansen with CBG. And then joined here in person tonight is the applicant's land use attorney, David Blackwell, and he's here to answer any questions as well. So let's start with the site. I'm trying not to be too redundant because Martha did a great explanation. So the proposed project is a 6-story building with 4 levels of residential units over 2 levels of structured parking. Both on-site and off-site characteristics. Because of on-site and off-site characteristics, we located the project vehicular entry off at Tamil Vista at the southeast corner, which is page top right there you see. The entry here serves several purposes of the project, including, as she mentioned before, access to the parking garage, access to a move-in space for residents, access to trash pickup, and a fire lane, as well as access to transformers, utilities in the rear of the site. It also includes a hammerhead-shaped turnaround there for the larger vehicles. And then finally, the entry is intentionally located here to be as far away from the school as possible. So what you see on the screen here is the first level of the building, which is primarily parking. It's designed as a loop with a ramp in the middle for access to the second level of parking above. To hide the parking from the street along Tamil Vista, we have lined the east side with leasing offices, resident amenities, 2 entry lobbies to really enhance the walkable character of the street and activate it. Also in this level is a mail package room, bike storage room, and several utility rooms. Before I go to the next level, I'd like to ask Mark with MJS to walk through some of the landscape concepts for the ground plane.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, commissioners, for having us tonight. My name is Mark Schattinger, principal with MGS Landscape Architecture. So as Martha mentioned, we are proposing new street trees. There currently are no street trees in this parcel here. So we have street trees along Pfeiffer, Lucky, and Tamil Vista. We have our secondary entry is actually our celebrated entry. It's got a grand stairs up to the lobby and then a nice gradual ramp. And then the main entry, pedestrian entry at the entry drive, is really more utilitarian. And that's where we'll have our short-term bike parking and a handicap ramp that takes you up to the lobby doors. As Keith mentioned, we are wrapping the building with water quality planters that are raised. These water quality planters are about 8 feet behind the back of sidewalk. So we do have a lot of landscaping relatively to screen these walls. And then the walls will actually do a better job of screening the parking structure as well. So that wraps on 3 sides of the building, on the east, north, and west sides of the building. And there are no amenities on the ground level, all the amenities on the podium. And when we get to there, I'll describe that more. Thank you.
Next slide, please. All right, here we're seeing the second floor of the building, which is essentially the same footprint and layout as what was on the first floor, except that lining the east side along Temple Vista are instead of amenities, we're lining with residential units. And then on the right side, you can see where the hammerhead is there near the what is the garage entry on the first floor. We've maintained that notch to maintain a volume so that the larger vehicles have clearance to turn around there. Next slide, please. All right, this is the third floor, which is the main level where the residential units begin. Floors 4, 5, and 6 stack directly above this building footprint and are identical, with the exception of the resident amenity area you see in pink there on the third floor facing the amenity courtyard. By stacking all these floors directly on top of each other, we're able to achieve the desired unit count and amenity program in a cost-effective way and leave enough space for the central courtyard you see in this plan. Now, before I pass this off to Mark, I'd like to describe the amenities. I'd like to point out, if you go to the next slide, please. But this layout allows us to meet, as was pointed out before, the municipal code requirements for open space. We actually exceed it using a combination of indoor and outdoor amenities. And we felt this was especially important and was a priority in this design to really create a healthy environment for future residents of this development. So next slide, please. Mark, why don't you walk through the amenities in the court?
Yeah, thank you, Keith. So by today's standards, this is a very generous podium courtyard. As a designer, we always look for the areas that are going to see sun. And because of the width of the courtyard, we're going to get a lot of sun by the amenity building and on top of the tot lot. It's being a family project, not saying that there aren't 3 co-workers, 3 teachers living together, but we do try to design these as multi-generational. So we do have the tot lot right outside the amenity building, which for best supervision. That sort of simulated boardwalk we have that connects the 2 exits into the podium really creates the active uses on the south side and the more passive, quiet reading areas on the north side of that boardwalk. And so we have nice casual seating that you can pull around and have groups of 2 or groups of 6. We have barbecues, which are electric. We don't have any gas in the landscape. We have festival lighting, which always adds a nice element in the evening. And then we just have little seating areas throughout. It's very informal and that works out best. So we really like, and then I wrote a comment about ladder access because of the planters. All the planters are outside those, what we call ladder pads. So we have stairs at the bottom. You can see at the bottom of this exhibit that take fire protection would come up those stairs, straight run stairs into the courtyard if they needed to get access into the courtyard from Lucky Drive there. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them later.
All right, next slide, please.
This is, the state has a water use calculation you use, SB 331, and 1881, I'm sorry. And we are under the allowed water use, and we know we need to go before Marin Water to get approval before this project can proceed.
Next slide, please.
And then the trees, I think what we're most pleased about, we took out 42 trees and we're replacing them with 83 trees. I realized some of the trees were big. The biggest ones out there on the intersection of Temple Vista and 5 for the Monterey cypress. That is an undesirable species in the town. So there's nothing much we can do about that. And then eucalyptus are always problematic. So, but we were able to get a nice quantity of trees in here. So we have 83. Our mitigation was only 42. Next slide. And then we have photos of our proposed plant palette, which I'm sure will be reviewed by Marin Water as well.
Next slide.
And then the wall and fencing. The green is those raised water quality planters, C3 planters. And we are planning on using a very handsome white stacked concrete block for those planters. So they're just not going to be stucco. And then we also have, like I said, 8 to 10 feet of landscaping from behind the sidewalk to the face of the planters. So you can see they're really set back nicely from the walking experience along the street. And then we do have some walls next to the corporate yards as well. I think, and then we have lighting for the last one. Lighting's important for security, and obviously creates an ambiance. So we have lighting, and we know we have dark sky ordinances and all the lighting things we need to pay attention to. And I think that's it for landscaping.
Thanks, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So here we have some sections through the site just to help explain what we've described so far. The section on the top runs east-west, and the section on the bottom runs north-south. The east-west section on top it really shows how we're using the amenities on the first level to screen the parking behind it, as well as the change in elevation from the first floor to the right-of-way along Tamil Vista due to the required design elevation for the floodplain. And you can see there the built-up planter and the setback from the back of walk, the large landscape setback before you get to the planters that Mark was just describing. Next slide, please. I'll walk you through these real quick. I think Martha and Amy both did a really good job of explaining the waivers that we're asking for. So first is the building step back exhibit. The code requires a 10-foot step back above the third floor, which would eliminate the areas you see in green there on all the street facing elevations and result in a loss of square footage in units. So we're asking for a waiver from this requirement. Next slide, please. This is the retaining wall height. Again, the code requires all retaining walls visible from the public street to be no taller than 4 feet. But due to our need to raise the building elevation, we're forced to have retaining walls taller than 4 feet in some locations. And a part of this is because of the building code and how the building height is measured for the construction type we're using. So it's measured from the top of those planters. So we need to keep it at a certain height to be able to build the most cost-effective construction type. Next slide, please. Building step backs. As was mentioned before, the building itself is within the or outside of the allowable setbacks. It's really because of the raised building plane, because of the floodplain, that we have some larger stairs and ramps that are coming down to meet the sidewalk, and there's a maximum 3-foot encroachment in that setback. So we're just asking for a waiver on some of those stair and ramp elements to encroach further into the setback. Next is building height. As was mentioned, there's a 50-foot building height in the site right now, but in order to meet the building unit count in program, with the building is 72 feet. Next, please, is bike parking. The requirement per the municipal code is 99 secured bicycle parking spaces. We're currently showing 36 right now. And as was mentioned, because there's a balance between making sure we provide all the amenities, the correct parking number, and then as we develop the design forward, we'll look at every opportunity to add more secured bike parking spaces into the building. And then finally, the last one is compact spaces. The code allows for 25% of the total parking to be compact spaces, and we're currently proposing 30%. So we're asking for a waiver on that requirement. And again, as we're able to, as we tighten down the drawings, if we're able to get as many of those spaces back to full-size spaces, we will do that. Next slide, please. Okay, so what does it look like? At the study session in January, we presented our initial concepts for the development. And at the commission's request, we prepared some alternate concepts, which we will show in later slides. So these next two sheets show the exterior four-side out-facing elevations of the building, and they represent the original architectural concept shared at the study session. So really what we're proposing here is a subtle mix of colors and materials combined with building plane breaks that are required by zoning and window groupings to break down the overall scale of the building into smaller, more refined components here to really try to achieve a timeless, clean aesthetic. Maybe you show the next slide as well. Let me actually go back to the last slide. It really shows up here on the street side facing elevations. those large breaks in the massing, as well as the cantilever that you see on levels 2 through 6. Those are the white elements there over the first floor, using this sawtooth element to really break down the massing into smaller pieces here. Next slide, please. Next one, please. So here's a rendering at the corner of Tamal Vista and Pfeiffer. In this view, you can see the combination of the colors, materials, plane breaks, deep recesses, and all those things that I explained previously, along with that cantilevered sawtooth detail, which is much more apparent here, that comes together to form that clean and simple and ordered facade that I described. Our real goal here was not to create a bold architectural statement, but really to have this building serve as a backdrop to the activity at the corner here, because this is already such an important intersection. At the study session, there were some concerns raised about the height of the building, and so we were asked if there's anything we could do to lessen the perceived height of the building. So after a number of different studies, looking at both aesthetics and cost, we came up with a second option and have really prepared a few different tonal variations of that same option to give you some different things to consider. So this is option 1. In this option, we've removed the sawtooth element on the previous scheme and have added these pushed out mid-building elements on floors 2 through 5, which are those lighter colored elements. This, along with the addition of another color, draws your attention to the middle floors of the building and creates the illusion that the 6th floor is stepping back in those areas. We've also moved the brick veneer that went all the way up at the corner and spread it across the first floor to give the building a strong base and ground it, and added siding in a darker color at the corner and the mid pushed back area that you see between the white masses there to create more contrast and attempt to break the scale of the building down further. That's the first of the options there. So option B, the next 2 options are really just tonal variations of the previous scheme I just described. So this one's slightly warmer and lighter tones at the corner and mid-building elements and has less contrast in the previous scheme, so it feels a little softer. And then option 3 is consists of cooler grays and even lighter tones on the siding with less contrast. So, we find that when it comes to building massing, the use of lighter colors and darker colors can really affect the perception of what the massing is. So we really want to just give you some options for your consideration here. There's also some color material boards there at the end that we can discuss. And so that's really it for my presentation. We're here, the whole team is here to answer any questions you might have. So thank you.
All right, thank you. While we have you there, and you're in our site, so to speak, I'm going to ask the commissioners if they have some questions for you. These are intended to be straightforward questions. Let's not get into a dialogue with this gentleman here, but let's ask him some questions. So, Daniel, I'll start again with you over there.
Yeah, can you pull up the elevations again, please? If you could go to the ones with the options, where I can see better. Okay. The darker sections, the corner and the other one that's showing, are they not as tall as the other elements of the building? It looks here in the rendering that they're shorter.
Correct.
And why is that? Just curious why, if you can have a lower building there, why can't all the white sections also be the same height?
Well, it's really to create variation. The ones that you see here, say in the brick, that's the lowest they can be. And then they're just subtly higher in the other elements to create movement as opposed to just having a flat, straight building height.
Okay. And then, of course, that still makes the building seem taller, with the white sections being, I think the parapet's like 5 feet tall. So could the parapet be 42 inches tall?
That's what the corner and the middle piece are the minimum 42-inch for fall protection. And then the others are, I
see.
don't have the number off the top of my head. I don't know if they're 18 inches taller or something minor like that.
And then the other question is, there's nothing that shows what the facade of the parking garage is.
It's on the rear elevation. If you can, I guess isn't the flat elevation there. It's really only exposed on that bottom elevation on the west. And then where the entry is, which is you see on the south elevation there. Otherwise it's basically
What is it?
it's stucco.
So the garage is enclosed and ventilated, tempered?
I mean, there are openings in it, but there's not enough opening to naturally ventilate it. So
Say that again, please.
There's not enough openings to naturally ventilate it, but there are openings around this backside and around the south side here. So
And where the openings are, where there's a railing or wall, they're just open to?
They're punched openings in the wall. Yes.
So I'm going to interrupt. They're screened for security in some way, or are they just open? Or are they, floor level? I think Daniel's trying to determine how open the floor level is down there.
I'm going to call on Megan Palmer here to help me out with this. Megan, are you there? If you can promote her to a speaker.
Yes, sorry, I'm coming off mute here. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah, we can't see at this scale. I can't tell. Are we proposing grills on the openings on the south side and the west side where the garage is exposed?
Yes, because we'll want them there for security. So there will be secure to make sure that no one can, penetrate the building.
Also, I'd like to hear from your civil engineer about that person's recommendation to increase the grade height 2 additional feet above required by town.
Can you promote Ryan Hansen?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry. You're talking about the additional 2 feet for sea level rise accommodations?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's common for cities, obviously, with bayside frontage, tidally influenced properties, where we do have our FEMA requirement to raise the site, at least 1 foot for livable space along finished floors to elevation 11, because we're in floodplain AE10. However, because of anticipated sea level rise around the Bay Area, especially areas along BCDC jurisdiction, there's an anticipated, there's various levels of anticipation, but in this case, we've accommodated up to elevation 13, which I believe is beyond the mid-century mark and a part of a climate action plan that we've seen across the Bay Area. So this is not only for flood protection of livable space, but the structure itself. And in most cases, the utilities that we have around the perimeter, so that should flood elevations rise and sea level rise continue to be a problem, that the protection of property and public safety would be implemented.
So you think the town standard is not adequate?
I'm not saying that, but there are other provisions that we are aware of as designers that we have taken into account at this point.
I think that's it for now, Peter.
Okay. Thank you, Daniel. Valerie.
Right. I have questions around the EV parking waiver that you guys are requiring for the town to apply to this project. So I understand that you found it as a financial burden to meet the requirement. And I was wondering if you have a cost delta between the baseline requirements and the town requirements for that retrospect, and whether or not you have studied the possibility of a third party service providers to cover the gap.
I can't speak to that. That's up to the applicant, whether or not they would want to do that. I believe they submitted an FAQ stating why they were, what we're requesting waivers for and where we would be meeting the California Building Code as well as Cal Green requirements. But due to the additional costs, they are not wanting to go over that.
Right, which I understand, which I'm asking whether or not there could be an analysis made to cover the gap by making partnerships with third-party providers.
That's outside of my expertise, so I couldn't say whether that's possible or not.
All right, and again, for the biking on site, 39 biking spots, very little. I know Margaret estimated about 200 to 300 children possibly living in those units. That's 2 bikes per unit, at least. As children grow, obviously bikes getting larger. So, again, having just estimated 40 biking spots is not enough, especially considering Corte Madera is highly bikeable area, and that's how kids mostly getting to schools as well. So how would the applicant deal with the amount of bikes that will be in the units? That's also the question if the parking is not provided.
Yeah, I can't speak to how that would be managed. But as we said previously, we will do everything we can to increase that as we move forward and tighten up the drawings, look for every opportunity to add in as much bike parking as possible.
And thank you. And another question is probably to the applicant also, not to you specifically, but there been a mention about the service that will be provided for the tenants who will be living there, like, after school lessons, perhaps, or some other programs that will be there. But my question is, what will happen and who will be funding these programs after the 15-year tax credit runs out of the funding?
That I can't answer. I'm not familiar with the
That's the
financial side.
applicant.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Valerie. Margaret, do you have any questions for this gentleman? Okay. And Mr. Rizzo?
Just have some questions about the parking. There's a number, are the parking spaces in a building this size assigned? Or is it kind of a free-for-all? Because there's not, you're going to the minimum, kind of. What's the typical way that parking's?
I can't speak specifically to how they would manage it, other than the fact that, like, the tandem spaces will obviously be assigned to one unit because you can't share a tandem stall. I think typically there's at least like one assigned per unit, but I can't be sure. I think it depends on how many cars people come in with. Some have none, some have more, and it's it's a management issue, and they end up doing a parking management plan to make sure it's feasible.
And the guest parking is going to be behind the gate then?
It's included in yes, it's inside the garage.
It's inside the garage.
Right.
So how would someone getting to visit someone in the building get into the garage?
We're looking, there's the old school way was after hours of operation for the leasing office, when the gates would then probably be closed in the evening. If you're coming to visit, you call your friend and they open the door, come and open the gate for you. We're looking at ways when, some of the things we're looking at with trying to respond to some of the hexagon comments, widening the drive out, things like that, seeing if there's a way to add in a call box, things like that. But those are all pending as we move forward to try to develop the design.
Is there any opportunities to do any surface parking on the outside there?
It's too tight. We wouldn't be able to fit, the building wouldn't fit if we added any parking on site.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Quick question. I may have missed it in here. Is this building wood frame or concrete?
The first 2 levels are concrete, the parking, and then the 4 levels above that are wood frame.
Are all wood frame.
Right.
Okay. I think that you have spoken through the choice of 3 and 4 bedrooms, as that's your preferred unit makeup. And that you see that as the optimal unit makeup for this building.
Yeah, I mean, those are financial performance
Right.
decisions made by the client. We don't make those decisions. So,
Okay, all right. What holds you guys responsible to consider adding more bike racks and so forth? Is that just the statement of goodwill or good effort, you know? Okay.
that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I don't think that we have any more questions for you, unless we want to hear from any other part of the applicant's team at this point. I don't think there is anything else here. All right. So at this hour, 8:30, it's time to I think we'll start public comment at this point, and we're going to take a break at some point. I will remind everybody here that at a few minutes to 10, we'll vote to continue the meeting. And at 10:30, we have to vote to continue it again if we are going to. So at some point, we will take a break. I'm going to ask that for public comment, that we keep it to non-repetitive comments, if at all possible. I would ask that you line up, keep a line behind the podium. Please don't let space accrue behind that and wait for the next person to come up. I was reminded of a comment by a former commissioner who said, repetition is not persuasion. So let's see how many people, by a show of hands, would like to stand up and comment tonight in the room. Okay, so I think we can start out at the 3-minute mark for this. Do you have 32 people online? Okay. Right. All right. So if we've got 15 people in here that are going to comment, that is that's going to add up quickly. So we have a timer. Let's see if you can ask online or people online, if you would put up a show of hands if at all possible, and you have a count that could be established roughly. Yeah, still going up. Okay. Let's start in with a 3-minute limit here and see how we go. So let's open it up. Public comment. I would like everyone to state their name and where you're from, if at all possible. Let's get underway and state your name. And if you're from San Rafael or Corte Madera or where you're from, please do so. What?
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Joe Murray. I live at 34 Lucky Drive. So I have more than a passing interest in this project. I know you've all worked very hard on it for a long time, and it must be really frustrating to achieve this goal of 725 units. Before I make any comment about the project, we, the citizens, have a question about the process and the transparency of it and the reality of it, really. Our question is, we know you're obligated to have 5 meetings. Is there anything in your mind that would change your mind from what you've proposed so far? That's our honest question. Can you think of anything that we can say that would change your mind? Or are we just fulfilling the legal 5 public meetings?
Good.
I don't expect an answer right away, but we are interested because this is what we're the neighbors, okay? We live here and we talk about that. And are we just kind of puppets, or is this a real thing that you're really interested in what our thinking is, okay? So I took a walk around today, and we're dealing here with 10 units to be built, 10 different units. We're talking about 240 Tamil Vista of 99 units. And next to that is 100 and 400 Tamil Vista, only separated by the operation yards of the water department. Then if we go back across the street from 240 to Nellen and Pfeiffer, Nellen used to go all the way through before they put that access to 101 in, okay? That's why Nellen is on both sides of the exit of Pfeiffer on the highway. So that's really close. 120 units on Pfeiffer. It's right almost across the street from 240. And then Lucky Drive is around the corner, and that's the only one. That and 41 Tamil Vista. 41 Tamil Vista is the theater, okay? So beside 41 Tamil Vista, the other units, and beside Lucky Drive, to be fair, the rest of the units are within 1,700 feet of each other. The concentration is incredible. What happens if a fire starts? What happens if we all have to get out of there at one time? The traffic right now is really intense. You have to remember that Tamla Vista is adjacent to Pfeiffer. Pfeiffer's on one side, 240, Tamla Vista's down here. When people leave...
There you go, sir.
Time,
Joe. Thank you.
Oh.
I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
My time is up?
Your time is up.
All right. Thank you.
Hi.
Good evening, Commissioners. Omar Carrera, resident of Corte Madera for more than 22 years. I'm here to support the proposed affordable housing development, 240 Tamalpayas Boulevard, Vista Boulevard. This project is more than just an apartment building. It's a system-level intervention to address the structural barriers many families in our community face. Barriers rooted in historical exclusion, rising costs, and a shortage of deeply affordable family-friendly housing. As someone who works closely with working class families, I can tell you that the need for 3 and 4 bedroom apartments is real. These are not theoretical units. They are homes for multi-generational households, essential workers, and families with children who currently face overcrowding, long commutes, or are one rent increase away from displacement. I recognize there are concerns about the project's high unit mix and parking, but let's not lose sight of the bigger opportunity. This is 100% affordable housing and one of the most exclusionary housing markets in the country. This project reflects a shift from housing as a charity to housing as an infrastructure. Like our schools or roads, affordable housing is essential for healthy, functioning, and equitable communities. Let's also remember that this is not about a single development. It's about what kind of community Corte Madera wants to be. Do we want to plan around exclusion and scarcity? Or do we want to design a community where people who work here can live here, raise their children here, and age with dignity here? This is a pivotal moment. Please use this to show that Corte Madera is ready to lead with inclusion, vision, and courage. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the thoughtful and considerate questions that the commission asked. And
Your name, ma'am?
my name is Mary Dempsey. I live at 62 Lucky Drive across from the proposed project.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, I don't want to be repetitive, but I'm wondering if we're shouting into the wind here based on the requirements and the possibility of lawsuits if this proposed project is denied. Is there any possibility that it will be denied? Are comments and concerns of little interest based on the threats that we're living under if this project is denied? I'm curious about that. I don't know if you can answer it. I know that NIMBY has a bad reputation as being elitist and unfeeling and uncaring. But the fact is, I want to put a personal face on this. I lived in a 1-bedroom apartment for 30 years in an effort to afford my own home. The only home I could afford was a condo, and it's across the street from this project. Now, based on this project, I'm sure that the property values will go down. And so I am faced with making an effort, a strong effort to live in this community while others are being subsidized to live in this community. I don't see why my effort should be devalued. So I just want to say that I don't know if this can make any difference, these comments or concerns, but I hope that they'll be considered. I also wanted to ask, I read in the paperwork that there's an Indigenous American comments that are being requested. I'm wondering if in that it will be consideration in the approval or denial of this project.
Thank you very much.
Hello, commissioners. Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Shoemake, and I'm the director of Home Match Marin. Home Match is a community service organization operating in Marin County that helps facilitate home sharing arrangements between community members. So we generally help seniors and older adults looking to rent a space in their home to help them find potential housemates. So our efforts help those we serve age in place, feel less isolated while aging, as well as create a more affordable housing option for workers. So I'm here tonight to voice support for the development of 240 Tamil Vista Corte Madera, as I believe it would no doubt create more affordable housing for seniors, families, and the workforce in Corte Madera. Housing supply is an issue nationwide, and creating affordable housing options such as the ones included in the development of 240 Tamil Vista is a way to address this problem while investing in Corte Madera's future. The project targets extremely low income levels, not just those closest to the AMI. These units go up to 4 bedrooms, sufficient for a growing family. They're also located in good proximity to transit links, the ferry, train, bike paths. Units like I believe it's 88, actually, I think I had bad intel. 88 affordable housing units in this proposal would help support those who work, live, and raise families in Corte Madera. So lastly, I would like to add that in the work our organization does with older adults in Marin County, we are seeing an increasing number of older people living on fixed incomes who struggle to keep up with rent given the growing gap between fixed incomes and the cost of housing. So creating more affordable housing options is one way to support older adults struggling to make ends meet, as well as help them age in the communities they helped build. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Pat Langley. I'm a member of the Marin Organizing Committee. I actually live in San Rafael, and I'm here today in support of the project at Tamil Vista Boulevard. And I'm doing it, speaking today, because I have a personal reason. It's important to me because I grew up in affordable housing, 3-bedroom unit, until I was a sophomore in high school and my family was able to purchase a home. We were a 1-car family. So the ability to walk to school, grammar school, middle school, and sometimes ride the bike. Of course, I tell my kids and grandkids about the freezing weather and the wind gusts that a Massachusetts winter brings. And that will not be an issue here. Families need the same opportunity to be able to get to school without the weather extremes that I had. Affordable housing for families is scarce. As a senior citizen, I recognize the need for smaller units, but I also recognize the need to have space where families who are supporting, like our IHSS workers, our caregivers, our pharmacy assistants, we need workforce housing to support our seniors as well. I don't know what my life story would have been if I didn't have a stable housing environment. And I worry about our young people today. Stable housing makes it possible for children to absorb the exceptional educational opportunities we have here. You can't do homework without a home. A glib slogan, but true. Children's lives will be changed for the better with a home here where their parents don't have to drive for hours to come into our community and work for us. Affordable housing allowed me to experience a full life. I'm grateful for those who made this housing available to my family. Given the current political situation, it's even more critical that local jurisdictions support our friends and neighbors. So I ask you to support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Hi, my name is Patricia Ye. I am from Corte Madera. I moved to Corte Madera in 2007 because of its charmingness of this town. And the charmingness actually come from the densities. You know, we don't have a big mall and we have mountains. So I'm going to question that if we are going to put tallest building in town in this particular intersections, and is that a correct decision or not? And I also understand that this has been rezoned for residential, but this does not identify in the master plan as this higher density, the tallest building in town. So this doesn't really, for me, doesn't really align with the city's visions. So I will questioning that. And I know the city did the traffic study, but it's the trip study, not accumulation study. I think there's a difference between accumulation versus numbers of trips. And Redwood High is a very famous high school. So we have kids come from all over Marin. So if we make this as a bottleneck and people could not get to it, you have no idea. Every morning, 8:15 to 8:30, this is untouchable because all the kids is trying to rush to school because they're going to be late. The first bell is at 8:30 sharp. So I think this location just not suitable for high density. And I also like to questioning the design team because not at once the design team change or modify anything according to anybody's comment here. And all they want is to max out the square footage so they could do whatever they wanted to do as a development. And they also mentioned about flood control. And I would like to mention, I don't know if you noticed that along Lucky Drive and Dorsey Drive, nobody put any retention walls because we are a community. We let the water just flow through the community. We don't stop them because once you stop them at this particular site, the water is going to go somewhere else and it's going to go to the intersection of the freeway. It's going to go to the Redwood High School. So we don't build walls. And this project has a 2 feet rise from the grading and also 2-story garage wall. So you can imagine and where the water is going to go. Because today, yes, the flood is manageable, but it happened multiple times during the flood season, king tide. It's just, it's a traffic hazard. So I don't know if you could build a castle and a wall to really stop them to influence their own project, but this is going to have a high impact on the rest of the project. And I must also share our experience on Lucky Drive because the building do settle about 1 inches per year. So our building has separate from the building itself to the staircase that connect to the house. So you can imagine big podium. Just use your imagination. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm also a resident of Corte Madera and very concerned about this project. We all agree that we need more housing, affordable housing, but this particular corner is already a bottleneck. I went and took some pictures yesterday, random traffic, and the pictures are here. Without this project being in this location, please look at these. I think that everybody has them. And really make a decision. This is like on a usual day, the kids are going to school. The traffic was from 101 to Lucky from the other side where exactly the place is sitting. I actually have a picture of the building versus, I walked for 10 minutes each way and I took pictures. And the entire area was just stopped traffic, waiting to turn left, waiting to turn right. Traffic was backed up in 101 and went all the way to DMV, wrapped around, and people were still waiting there to get onto Tamil Vista. Now imagine another 200, 400 cars. They're talking about having only one driveway for the cars. What's going to happen with the rest of the cars who just want to go in there at the same time? It's going to be a line, and we don't have any additional parking for anybody. The kids in the school district, they're just parking all over the place. They're assigning 163 parkings. What happens to the rest? Another thing is, one of you mentioned, and I really appreciated, why do we need these luxurious 3-4 bedrooms? And I'm hearing all this, just like we're living very modestly. Me and my neighbors, we are all in 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms. And here we are we actually paying with our taxes for this? And we are looking at this luxurious monster that is blocking our views of Mount Tam, blocking our light because it's going to be so massive. Burden on the schools. Thank you for your time, and please look at these pictures.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, good evening. My name's Jenny Silva. I'm the Executive Director of the Marin Environmental Housing Collaborative, and we are a strong supporter of this project. This is one of the strongest 100% affordable projects that's under consideration in Marin right now, and we think it's important that it move forward. We wrote a letter. I'm not going to repeat all the points in the letter, but it is great to have family-sized units. There's very few multifamily projects with family-sized units. It's close to transit. There's outdoor space, which is really lovely for families, and we would love to see more bike parking. But I want to talk about a few issues that came up. My daughter went to Redwood, so I am very familiar with this site. I live in Sausalito and I worked in Emeryville, so I drove up and down that every day during drop off, and it was a nightmare. But this project is not going to have the impact on traffic that people fear it will. There is not a parent that will live in this project that will drive their parents to Redwood. It would make no sense. It's a short drive. All the schools are within easy biking distance. And I can guarantee you that every resident in that building is going to do everything within their power that they don't need to come in or out during school drop-off or pickup. So there is no reason. Most people can arrange their lives that they don't have to leave or return to their home within 30-minute periods. I really don't believe it's going to have the impact. That said, Corte Madera should deal with it. It's a nightmare. It is a pain point for everybody that needs to go through there every day. But refusing to build this building, if you were able to do it, would not fix the problem. The problem will only be fixed by Corte Madera engaging with the TAM district to figure out a better solution for drop off and pickup for the students. And there's many different solutions that can be investigated, from public transit, which was never a viable option for my daughter, to having alternate drop-off spots, lots of things that can be done. Second, Corte Madera, and I'm surprised this hasn't come up, really needs this workforce housing. My daughter's first job was at Nordstrom's at age 16, and she made $17.25 an hour, more than double what her older stepsister made in an out-of-state location. After 6 months of employment, she was responsible for shutting down Nordstrom's every night. She had 6 bosses during 6 months of employment. Nordstrom must have so much heartburn over this location. I can't imagine being responsible for it and the staffing challenges that they have. It's really hard. Lastly, I'll just talk about property values. Affordable housing doesn't drop property values. Struggling schools and shuttered businesses do. This will be good for all of Corte Madera. Please move it
Thank
forward.
you very
Thanks.
much.
I'm Matt Gondak. I grew up in Larkspur and live in Corte Madera at 44 Redwood for about 30 years. I fully support the project. You can walk to all the schools. I agree with everything she just said. If there is a traffic problem, I don't think this is going to add on to a lot of it. You can get to the grocery store. I think Corte Madera should put a lot of their housing down there. I think we could put a bunch down at the movie theater. I'm in commercial real estate for 30 years, and in Berkeley, they started building 5 to 10-story buildings in the last 10 years. And first I thought I was going to hate it, and I drive by them all the time now at University down by Spengers. There's 6 of them next to each other. They're all 6 stories. Up on University in Shattuck, the McDonald's is going to be 25 stories and whatever. But I think the housing by the freeway is good, and I support this project, and thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Hi, I'm Rhoda Becker. I live at 44 Lucky Drive. I am 89 years old, and I am terrified that I will never be able to leave my house if there is a fire or an earthquake or any other kind of emergency. Every student from Redwood High School parks in the parking lot. They also park up and down our street. We have no extra parking. If we have parking for all of these residents, where will their friends and visitors park? They will not have any place to park because there is no parking at all. But the fear of not being able to get out when we have an emergency or to get an emergency vehicle through to be able to take care of the people in that house or the people on our street is very real. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Julie J. I'm 36 Lucky Drive, so I'm everybody's neighbor. Thank you all. You really have done a great job trying to review this. I know your hands are very tied here. I understand what California has done. I think we all actually want affordable housing for everyone. We really, really do. I think our only objection here really is it's pretty massive for that corner. It's really pretty massive. And I wonder, we do have, 10 sites or something, is there any way to bring this down? I think somebody brought up a good point. Perhaps we're leveling at the top. I'm a designer. Maybe that's not gorgeous. I don't know. Maybe we can bring down that retaining wall a little bit. Maybe just a couple of thoughts here just to see if there's anything we can do. I do agree there is no parking. There's no off-street parking around the building, so I'm not sure where the extra parking goes. I don't know if that matters or not. Yes, you need more bikes, this and that. But anyway, thank you for all your help. Just, is there anything we can do here? We really feel like, I wanted to leave the meeting about 2 hours ago because I feel like there's nothing I can say to help this. So there we go. Thank you for all your help, guys.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mary Bennett. I live at 56 Lucky Drive. I came to the last meeting. I heard of the waivers that were requested by the developer and received by the developer. I feel that you as a group ought to be able to have a couple waivers of your own. Somewhere within the system, there's a way to work with the law and still have some waivers. I would love to live in this facility. I qualify income-wise for this facility. I am a renter, so I would be an obvious and appropriate tenant. But I could not in good faith move to this facility because we do not need, at our age, there was quite a bit of discussion about seniors tonight, both from the people who were on the phone talking about it and references here. But I don't see any provisions for seniors, and seniors cannot in good faith take up a 4-bedroom unit when a family could take up a 4-bedroom unit. Somewhere there has to be some 2 bedrooms or even 1 for people like my husband and myself. We can't take care of a 4-bedroom unit. We don't want a 4-bedroom unit, but we do want to live comfortably, and I would love to live on 1 level. I live on 2 levels now, but there's been nothing given to you. You've only given to them. And I really feel that there has to be some give and take, and you could have some provision somewhere for something else. Size, density, parking is a nightmare. Walking is frightening. I try and walk every single day, 3 to 5 miles, and I can't even go out of my house on Lucky Drive, traffic-wise, because I can't cross the street. So please think about the neighbors and think about the people who are really impacted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, in the room, do we have anyone else that would like to make a comment before we go to the online commentary? All right, seeing none, then at this moment, I'll turn to Claire and see who she's got lined up here.
All right, I see Linda Klein. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself when you're ready.
Hi guys, my name is Linda Klein. I live at 100 Lucky Drive, which is right across the street from this proposed project. And you have heard a lot of support because we all want diversity in our communities, at least I certainly do, and that it would be affordable. For those who have a harder time affording this area. But what you also have heard is there is no additional capacity for parking anywhere other than your site. And it doesn't even accommodate the number of cars it will have that has been admitted. And I live right across the street. There is no parking. So where are all those cars going to go that can't park in the project itself? To approve this is a terrible idea. Find another location. This is the wrong site. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, next I see Phyllis. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
Phyllis, can you unmute yourself?
Looks like you're unmuted, Phyllis, but we can't hear you.
Okay,
We still can't hear you. If you want to send us an email with a comment, can distribute it after that. Thanks.
Thank you, Phyllis. Next.
I don't see any other hands. Oh, one more. 2 more. AF, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name's Arlene. I'm a long-term resident of Larkspur. I wanted to reiterate the concerns about flooding in that area. I've driven on Lucky Drive on occasion where there's been 1.5 feet deep of water. So imagine what it's going to be like 20, 30 years in the future, what it's going to be like. I also have concerns about that area. It's a liquefaction zone, I believe. And I'm wondering what structural features that the developer is implementing to make sure that that building will not pancake. The first 2 levels, from what I understand, are parking. And as you know, in the city during the big earthquake, a lot of buildings just pancaked like crazy. Also like to mention traffic safety, as others have said. It's pretty dangerous area. And if you're expecting a lot of kids running around, that could exacerbate problems. I'm all for housing, but I think this monstrous building is totally out of character. And I do think there's other areas that it would be better suited for. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlene.
All right, and then next I see Heather. I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Heather. I'm from Larkspur. I have a couple of questions. Is this proposed apartment complex only for teachers and city and county workers, or just plain old workforce housing? If so, if it's for teachers and city employees, has there been a formal or an informal study on the actual current numbers of families interested in these 3 or 4 bedroom units? My other questions are there estimated guaranteed rent? I'm sorry, are there estimated rent? Are the rents estimated guaranteed to be rents upon move-in when the project is finished? And what will be the annual rent increases be? And who will oversee the affordable housing program long-term to make sure that people qualify for these units continually? And my last question is, will it be written in the long-term contract between Corte Madera, the developer, and whoever you assign as the monitoring agency, that if any type of renovation were to be initiated somewhere down the line, that the current owner of the complex cannot give massive rent increases to make it market rate and then work back to make that an affordable then, because the people have been paying their rent with rent increases all along. But if this happened at my apartment complex, they said they were going to renovate, and they renovated just a little bit, and they were able to give us massive increases, rent increases, even though we were in the below market rate program. So the question was, will it be written in the contract, long-term contract, that any type of renovation cannot give massive rent increases down the line to make it market rate? Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
I don't see any other hands right now. Check the email.
Nothing showing up? Technical check here. All right, well, I'm going to, they're almost on the verge of saying something. Nothing?
Okay, yeah, there's one comment. This is from David McPherson, and it says, our family appreciates that the project as proposed limits objections by citizens, the Planning Commission, and the town. However, as we understand it, the Planning Commission and the Town Council is not required to grant waivers. For example, the town's requirement for secured bicycle parking. With 99 residences, with many 3 and 4 units, conservatively, the residents will own 225 plus adult and kid bicycles. Instead of requesting a reduction from 99 secured bike parking to a ridiculous number of 36 secured bicycle parking, the developer should be encouraging non-motorized vehicle travel by offering more secured bike parking. The applicant's response that they can't speak to how the excess need for bike parking will be handled is an insult to this community. Please do not reduce the town's requirement of 99 spaces for bikes.
Okay, thank you. And then in the interim, have any other hands turned up online? No.
Hands.
Okay. So, Before we take a break, I'm going to ask staff if they want to address anything in the comments that came up tonight.
Yes, there was one question about tribal consultation. And the speaker was right that we did some explanation in the staff report, but just to clarify, we did send an offer for consultation consistent with AB 52, which is one of the consultation laws. And as we progressed, it actually isn't required because of the type of CEQA document that we did. That being said, consultation is still required as part of our housing element. So it's a little bit nuanced as to the process for consultation. But we did an archaeological survey, and the tribe did not engage with that archaeologist. So we have hired an additional archaeologist that the tribe prefers, and they are under contract with the town. And so we are going to continue consultation. There is mitigation measures that we have preemptively included as part of the project that requires tribal monitoring. And we will continue to consult as part of the grading permit process, which will be kind of parallel to this process.
Okay. What else? Anything else you would like to comment on?
In regards to the concern raised about can I never say that word,
Liquefaction, yes.
That as part of the building permit submittal, the applicant would be required to submit a geotechnical report, which they have already done, and which will evaluate all of those issues.
Yeah, all those issues will be addressed. Pancaking in San Francisco is based on old housing building code requirements, no longer in place. There was a question about the standards for those people renting from Heather and Larkspur. There is no, it's open to those who qualify for low income.
To those who qualify at the different income levels, and then it's based on if it's a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom. So those are all established by federal and state agencies. The rents do increase annually, and the developers are required to report annually to ensure that people that are living in the units continue to qualify to live in the units. And they're required to be affordable for a minimum of 55 years. So if renovations were to occur, that would not change the rents that would be paid.
Yeah. Could staff speak to the number of projects that are part of the housing element and how, if any way, to explain how this one was selected so that it addresses why this development at this location, and there are other locations in town that could be open to the same kind of development?
Yes. So as part of the housing element, there were 10 housing opportunity sites that were rezoned. It results in about 850 units, round numbers. They are divided almost 50% evenly between West Corte Madera and East Corte Madera. As part of that process, there was extensive outreach that was done at Planning Commission and Council and at pop-up workshops. And there was also a 6-part community workshop to try to get feedback from the community on locations where housing was appropriate. The housing sites are all located not within established neighborhoods, but along the commercial corridors. And we also looked at buildings or sites that had older buildings that could lend themselves to redevelopment. And it was also based on owner interest. And this particular owner contacted the town as well as some other owners that were interested in having their properties included as part of the housing element.
I also note that I think it's important to note that the town has no control over private development as far as who applies in which location. We wish we did, but we don't. So this project in this location, and we are not able to say we would like your project in another location. It is really up to them and that property owner and what agreement they've made. And all we can do is to create the zoning framework and the policy framework for projects to come forward.
Yes. Okay. So then we're at this confluence of state law and local circumstances here. So you've stated, but I think there's a number of people who would like us to deny it. So the elephant in the room is what happens if we do not approve this. So
the project
qualifies under the Housing Accountability Act, which it does because it's a multifamily project. And if it is eligible for density bonus, if it meets the eligibility criteria of the density bonus law and has 100% affordable unit, which as far as we know, it does, and we deny incentives and concessions and waivers without having evidence in the record that proves that the incentives and concessions will not lower costs and that the waivers are not needed to physically build the project as proposed. If we do any of those things, then we're in violation of the law and subject to lawsuit. That could come in the form of the applicant. They could come in the form of some other interested party who would be interested in applying to limit this development. It could come in the form of a suit from the AG or of course, the Housing and Community Development Department. And as I said earlier, in response to Commissioner Bandel's question, if we lost that lawsuit, we would be responsible for attorney's fees.
Right. And as you have your ear to the ground much more significantly than any of us do, but we do hear about these lawsuits threatened at different localities. Has there been any recorded fallout as a result of the lawsuits? Do you know of any?
I don't know exactly what the consequences have been. I do know that Huntington Beach has been involved for a while now, and they've not been successful to date. I think there are a couple of other projects in Southern California. The planners may know of more because they talk to planners in other regions. But the lawsuits do happen. And if they don't settle, if we don't necessarily find out about them unless they go up to the Court of Appeals. So I know about, I know that there's been friction between the Housing and Community Development, the Department of Housing and Community Development in several cities, but I can't tell you of any appellate court cases so far that have come out of a denial like this. There have been earlier ones based on the Housing Accountability Act, but prior to the density bonus issue coming up. That was the Berkeley case, which is the basis for a lot of what I've been telling you this evening, which is that we can't redesign their project to something that we like better.
Right. So the waivers and so forth requested by the applicant are also not something that are negotiable, period.
Have evidence to prove that they either don't result in cost savings or are not needed in order to physically build this project. And so far, I haven't heard any evidence to that effect. The commission would have to make those findings, and the burden of proof is on the town. Now, of course, before the applicant or any interested party could file a lawsuit, they'd have to file an appeal. So ultimately, this would end up in the hands of the town council. But the same restrictions would apply to them. It would just transfer the problem to another decision-making body.
Okay, so then without making the process difficult, then even if the council turned it down, then it becomes sort of a project that they can build at will. Is that correct? No.
They would have to get a court order directing the town to approve the project.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be many steps between where we are tonight and that outcome. But in the meantime, the town would be spending money on attorney's fees, and they would be, the potential litigant would be incurring attorney fees that the town would ultimately have to pay if we were unsuccessful. And we would be drawing negative attention from the AG and the Department of Housing and Urban and Community Development, which could have other unfortunate consequences down the road.
And the threat of losing funding from the state for other elements of state-funded project does occur, or is that?
I believe that it's possible, but I haven't researched that issue.
Okay.
Can I just add one other additional point? That depending on what findings would be made in denial for this project, it would implicate our housing element, all the other sites along Tamil Vista Boulevard, because all of this was previously approved as adequate and with environmental review. It'd be very problematic if for some reason we denied this project, but didn't deny it as part of the housing element. And how does that jeopardize all the other sites that we have in our housing element?
It would throw it into a tailspin. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. I'm going to ask that we take a 10-minute break here at this point and oh, yes, go ahead.
Excuse me, Chair Chase. Would you like to close the public hearing before you?
Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. So we will close the public hearing at this point. We will take a 10-minute break and come back to debate. We're up here passing the sample board around, but we're going to reconvene here. Just before the break, I closed public hearing. The town attorney reminded me to close it, and I said openly that we are closing the public hearing before the break. So that stays closed. Okay. So we've heard a lot of commentary, and we have lots of things to talk about in theory. We're down to a few elements. We have in front of us the option board of 3 designs that the applicant put in front of us. We have option A, B, and C. It's part of the packet. It's been distributed online. We have them here. I think they're on the back table as well. It's part of the applicant's package. So I think that that's one of our points of consideration here. I think that we want to put on the record certain feelings and statements by the commissioners to make sure that they're a part of the record. But beyond that, we can make some comments, and we can respond to some of the public comment that was made up here. I certainly have some comments to make in response to that, but I'm going to start with Daniel again over here and see what his thoughts are, what he wants to say, and how he feels about option A, B, or C. At this point, reminder that we are going to comment until 10:50 or 9:58, and then we're going to vote to continue. And it can be a majority vote to continue. I have the resolution tagged here, so at any point, if anybody wants to make a motion, you can to approve or deny the application. So, Daniel, start out, please.
Sure, thank you. I'm certainly a supporter of affordable housing in Corte Madera, and I think it's needed for all the reasons that the people who are supporters of this project have said, and even some of the people who have concerns about the project have said that they feel that the town really could use more affordable housing. Unfortunately, this project proposes a project that is out of scale with what was approved by the Planning Commission and Town Council for this district. And in particular, I think the density bonus from 35 to 63 units, the density bonus increase, the height increase, the lack of the step back, the bike parking requirement, and some of the major ones that I have concerns about. Probably one of my major concerns is the exit and entrance from the project. The assessment that was done did not really look at the traffic leaving the project. All it simply said was that this number AM and PM in-out trips. The office, which was similar to the office development. However, the office development has 2 entrances and exits. It has one off of Tam Vista and one off of Pfeiffer. So those trips are currently distributed on 2 streets. And I'm concerned that it could be a significant safety issue. Not that this would stop the project, but getting better information about the traffic impact at peak hours might help us understand what changes we might want to make to the traffic circulation in that area. It's possible that assessment might suggest that a left turn out of this development would be unsafe, which might actually be a liability issue for the developer and ultimately perhaps even the town. So I do think before this goes to the town council, I would like to see an actual traffic assessment and actually an animation, which is a very standard traffic technique these days, so we can actually see how this traffic would move at peak hour. I think we could reflect on the options. I think the options, particularly B and C, are an improvement, and appreciate the developers and the architects' responsiveness in that area. I think that ultimately, though, given what we've been told and given the state legislation, I think there's a lot of risk on the part of the town of denying this project. So I'll just leave it at that at this point, Peter.
Okay. Thank you. To you, Valerie.
All right, thank you. So I share same sentiments as Dan has just placed here. Again, the lack of biking spots. I wanted to start with saying that I do support the affordable housing. I think it's very much needed. A lot of people will be using it, and all of the sites hopefully will be developed to that. But this particular one, it just feels there is a level of opportunity that is missed for this particular project. In particularly, we are striving to look into a better environmental future for ourselves, for our kids, to support that. And having the developer requesting the waivers that kind of sacrifice the efforts that the town is making, that California is making as well, is unfortunate to see. There is a big opportunity to apply for the LEED certification for homes. And yes, it's a slight added cost, but it's not necessarily, in the grand scheme of things, will be impactful to the budget. And but doing so, it would go beyond the requirements for the, what called green is having. Like, you would ensure the health of the materials, you would ensure the actual, kind of engagement of the community. It would be one of the first projects. We've been talking about and hearing from the public here that it's one of the major 100% affordable housing here. Not leading by the example and proposing something above and beyond of the actual what California imposing as a standard currently is unfortunate and frustrated to see, because it is a missed opportunity, I feel like. Again, waiver and reduction of EV parking when town is fighting with other commercial properties to establish the EV parking on their lots. Again, missed opportunity. And I'm sad to see that this is happening to such a grand scheme of the project. The height of the building, I appreciate the architect coming back with the option to kind of offset the monolithic look of the building. But it still is going to be a one-off tall building in that particular area. So, decisions like not including little Juliet's balconies on the facades where people can plant some flower beds to create a differentiation and take away from the monolithic structure there. It's all budget driven, and there is no reason for that, because it doesn't really add financial burden as much in the grand scheme of things. I am concerned with the possibility of this building to be slightly lower, and it's not. Again, there's a lot of design considerations that could be deemed as subjective from my perspective, that just not been taking into the account in general. So all of that, and understanding, like hearing the public, what public is saying, our hands are tied in this particular meeting. It seems like we need to make a decision without any adjustments or conditions for this approval. But it would be nice for the developer to hear these thoughts and to consider the fact that it is a large opportunity for Corte Madera to lead by example, and this project can be that.
Thank you, Valerie. That's well said. Okay. Margaret, your thoughts over there?
Well, initially, I want to say that since being on the commission, this is my second or third go-round. This is the worst situation this commission has ever been put in, ever. And I don't even think it's fair to put us in this position. I agree with everything that's been said, and I'm not going to repeat it. And I'm going to just zero in on a couple things that are particularly bothersome to me. The first thing is the idea that the developer has added 2 extra feet to raise the building. It's very disingenuous for the developer to have lived and basically bullied us with the laws of California, and then to find that the FEMA requirement is not good enough for them is really, as I said, very disingenuous. It just doesn't hold anything to me. The other thing that I think is a real issue here, which has not been answered, is the burden on our educational the schools and the facilities in the rest of the town. What as I understand it, what was addressed here was the entire school district. Corte Madera is a small place with Redwood High School, Neil Cummins, and across the border, or across the highway, I call it a border, in East Corte Madera, public schools. To think that this is not going to be a burden on those public schools is just somebody who has their eyes closed. And our kids should be our primary concern in this. The last thing that I want to address is the idea of the safety and health issues that are going to occur, especially in the face of a disaster. I understand that you have to have evidence, but I don't think the town has done the due diligence to find that evidence that we needed to do. And I think we only have to look at the Oakland Hills fire years ago and the LA fire and the fires up in Santa Rosa to know what a danger it could be to the health and safety of the community and that people in that building and the people around it. Also, the fact that there's not a fire engine that could, in Corte Madera, the Corte Madera Fire Department can't reach the top of that building right away. We have to call some other fire department to come in. It's just a horrible situation. The people on Lucky Drive and the surrounding areas are being put in. The other thing, which people haven't considered, the traffic that comes off of the town center is another issue that needs to be looked at. Anyway, those are my comments. I think that the liability of the town is huge. I have to say that as a member of this commission, I feel like we've been bullied by the developer using the laws that the state passed without any any consideration of the community around it. That's what I have to say.
Okay, Margaret, thank you.
Chair Chase, if I could interject and provide some updated information on the school capacity.
Sure.
That was provided to me. EMC, they verified information that was sent by the school district at Redwood High School. The total capacity is 3,243. And current enrollment is 1,720. So there's an excess capacity of approximately 1,500. And that information came from Corbett Elson at the high school district. And then for the elementary schools, the total capacity at each of those schools, Cove School has an excess capacity of 211. Neil Cummins Elementary School has an excess capacity of 315. And then Hall Middle School has an excess capacity of 245.
Thank you. That helps clarify the picture.
Believe because the parking lot at Redwood High School, every single space in both of those parking lots are always filled.
Ride your bike to school. That's the mantra. Yeah.
We have parking spaces for the
Right.
bikes.
They can walk from that
Okay.
house.
Mr. Rizzo.
All right. So in the last few years, we went through great lengths to carefully analyze development requirements and environmental impacts to rezone Temple Vista corridor to a scale that would enhance the character of our community and to promote development of housing projects. And I'll agree to that. I don't agree with the way some of the state housing laws were written with open-ended incentives on the density, bulk, and height. Without these ceilings, we'll be faced with numerous out-of-scale projects that will have impacts on our community, which we're already seeing the community outcry. As far as this project is concerned, it does not meet our recently zoned AE2 sub-areas objective design standards for height and building envelope, or some of the general plan guidelines in Chapter 5 for community design that incorporate design options to reduce visual scale, size, and bulk. I agree that we need to add this density to our community and the unit count, but I'm still an advocate for a mix of units for several reasons. It will make a more diverse building community within that microclimate. It will allow older single-family homeowners in the area to scale down and open up their houses for incoming families that might want to live in a house with a yard. Some of the smaller units, if there was a mix of smaller units, it might reduce the height, the overall cost of the project, plumbing and infrastructure, the extra second parking platform, reduce the height. And I'm not designing it. I'm just saying that not reducing the units, but reducing the size of the units to different types of units would really help the scale of this project. And also a lot of our workforce housing doesn't have families. So we've got people up and coming that are working in some of our communities, some of our departments, up and coming fire department, firemen and police officers that are single or coupled up. And this project doesn't address any of those concerns. So, I mean, my major concerns is just the overall bulk of this project, not necessarily the 100 units, but the types of units there are in there. I'm really discouraged and disappointed that we've had 3 meetings, we've discussed a mix of units, and the developer didn't even try to present an option that addressed any of the concerns that the community had regarding the bulk, regarding the bicycles, regarding the parking. It's just the same project. So that's where I stand with it. I mean, I don't really care what color scheme they go with, and we shouldn't even have a discretionary review of the color of it because that's really not even on the board. But I think the project's too big, and that's what I feel.
Yeah.
I do have a question here. Does option 2 even exist, approved resolution with modifications? Because we can't even address any modifications based on the state's criteria?
At the back of the resolution here.
The option 2, I think you're talking about the staff recommendation and what the options are available to you. There could be additional conditions that you would request. There is the modification of design if you choose to.
But I thought we can't have a resolution where we're redesigning the building. So how can we do any modifications? I was trying to stick with the objective standards, which is limiting to 50 feet, but we can't do that. So I don't understand how can we even?
Question would be what kind of modifications could be applied, right?
What we are barred from, unfortunately, is applying any of the rules and regulations that are either the subject of legitimate incentives or concessions or the subject of waivers. And pretty much all of the design standards that you just referenced are the subject of either waivers or incentives and concessions. If there are state law regulations or federal law regulations, you could impose a condition that's based on them. Conceivably, if there's an industry standard, such as among the engineering community, I would think you could impose that, although I can't say it's ever been tested, but you cannot enforce the town's regulations if under applicable state law, those regulations don't apply to this project.
Got it. Okay. Does that answer your question, Jim? No, not really. Okay. Yeah. All right. So here's where I land with all of this. It's sort of a given that we can't modify all these things that irk us to no end, right? Got height, bulk, all those things, setbacks. We're constrained. We know that the developer has not offered to change the program and say, okay, I can go to mix of 1, 2, 3, and 4 bedroom units. That's not something that has been put forth. I think that we're going to see more of these. This is the opening salvo in these development projects. We're going to see some more if the economic downturn is not so significant. My crystal ball says that building materials and everything are going to go up in price. We're going to have inflation. We're going to have a problem that's going to discourage developers from coming in. This may be the last one for a while, but hopefully if that doesn't get too bad, we'll see some more that don't ask for all these exemptions and waivers. That's what I would like to see. That's what we planned for in the housing element, was to have some buildings that we can stomach. When it comes to listening to many of the commentary that came in, we were very worried about the what's called Bell Mount Tam now, which we called Wind Cup back in the day, did not have the impact despite its overwhelming size. I do think that we do need to plan on having a little better traffic information come out of the town for the council. I like Daniel's commentary that we present something more concrete for traffic. But bottom line is that the feared traffic did not develop out of Wind Cup. I don't think they're going to get a significant traffic impact out of this because people are going to know that you don't travel. Everyone thinks that it's been saying, or not everyone, a lot of people have said school traffic is going to get worse. I don't think it's going to get worse. In Corte Madera alone, you cannot go down Tamalpais Boulevard between 7:45 and 8:15 without being backed up all the way to town center. When you leave in the afternoon, it's backed up from the freeway almost back to town hall, people leaving. In Mill Valley, you can't get in or out of Mill Valley for 40 minutes, 45 minutes to get out of there when school gets out. It's horrendous. In San Francisco, you cannot make inroads up and down Scott Street because of the schools there. You can't get around Presidio Middle School. It's a school problem everywhere. Traffic comes to a stop when school convenes and gets out. That's a fact of life. And it's bad on Tamil Vista, but I don't know that that's going to change. It's not. That's a fact of school. Everyone wants to be at school in a half-hour period. It's a fact. That's my perception of it.
Excuse me, Chair Chase.
Yes.
It's just about 10 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. All right. A vote to continue to 10:30. We need to take a vote. Margaret? No. Jim?
Yes.
Okay. Valerie?
Yes.
Okay. Daniel?
Yes.
Okay, and I vote yes. We have a 4-1 vote to continue till 10:30. At 10:30, we have to have a unanimous vote, but let's see if we can get through this by 10:30. So, we have, I lost my train of thought here for a second.
You're talking about traffic,
Yeah,
schools and backing out.
School traffic, yeah, I just.
Peter, also, I think we need to address the options A, B, and C.
Yes, that's on, I mentioned that at the beginning. We'll get to that, right. We have the designated locations on the housing plan. It's going to happen. We're going to get more. I said that a minute ago. Traffic study, it's too bad that the bike racks won't be clarified in the current proposal, but it's clear it's going to be needed. And I hope the developer will get to doing that soon before it gets to town council, if at all possible. Let's see, other public comment that I was addressing. I think the 3-bedroom issue is important to have in Corte Madera. I agree with the fact that we need workforce housing. I also agree that the mix of units would be appropriate, but there are almost no 3 to 4 bedroom units in a mass development anywhere. And these guys are probably going to sell them out, rent them out all the time. They'll probably be fully engaged. We need families. We need long-term commitment to the area. I think it's a great addition that there are this many units, but it ought to be a mix, a few thrown in. We can't make them do that. So there we are, kids. I think we are at the point where we have 2 things before us. One is to vote thumbs up or down on the resolution, and to include in that resolution the preference for option A, B, or C that they presented to us for architectural changes to the structure. So, Margaret, I'm going to start over with you. Option A, B, or C. In that board right there, that was in the packet that we all looked at. C. Okay. C, B, B. Okay.
And L.
Daniel?
B or C, I'll go with the vote of the other members.
Okay. Valerie?
B.
All right. I'm a B. Jim? We have a 5-0 in favor of B. So we would add that to the resolution. So here we are. We have to decide if we're going to vote up or down on this resolution. The moment of truth is here.
Yes, Peter, I'd like clarification on the traffic assessment issue, whether that ends up just on the record to staff, or whether that needs to be somehow stipulated.
We can add that stipulation to the resolution as far as reservations that you have, or what you feel needs additional study.
Okay, thank you.
So, and what would that be? That we're going to require or ask that if the traffic study be presented, or how would you?
Yeah, I think that a traffic assessment that looks at the actual impact of getting in and out and the impact on both Pfeiffer and Tam Vista be done by a qualified traffic engineer before this comes before the town council. So they have the benefit of that analysis. And again, maybe that will show that there's some improvements that could be made that would expedite some of the traffic challenges.
So in simple terms, that before going to council, it would have the traffic study would be presented that shows that comparison appropriately, right? Okay, so we have an option of either a motion to deny or a motion to approve with that addenda, that,
Chair Chase?
yes,
May I raise a point of clarification?
yes.
Under CEQA, there's no traffic impact of this project, regardless of what we may all feel about that. It's the law. So we couldn't ask the developer to implement any recommendations that might come out of this traffic study. It would be on the town's dime, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if it's a life safety issue and it's on the town's dime, then it's on the town's dime. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Staff will see to it that that happens. I'm sure of it. Right? So, okay. All right. So here we are. One way or the other. Motion to deny or a motion to approve. Daniel.
Yeah, with everything I've said, and those two stipulations, I would vote to approve the project.
Do we have a second over here? Anybody? Nobody wants to. I can second it, can I not? Yes, I can. So I will second it. So it's time for the vote. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bandel,
No.
Commissioner Kenny,
Yes.
Commissioner Beshoyer,
Yes.
Vice Chair Rizzo,
No.
and Chair Chase.
Yes. Okay. What do you have to say about this for appeal?
We have two resolutions, correct? Okay, that's.
Following the action by the Planning Commission at a public hearing or meeting, any decision of the Planning Commission may be appealed to the Town Council within 10 calendar days. Appeal forms are available at the Planning Division or online, and the filing fee is $300.
All right, there you have it. I'm going to, I would vote to adjourn the meeting. All right, let's adjourn. Thank you. Good night.